Yeah. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. Nice to see everyone. I've got a lot of people here attending today. I'm Eric Fernandez. I'm a solution architect at Port, and today we'll be talking about scorecards and how to really use scorecards to gamify engineering excellence and make sure that, once you start using them, you get the most out of them. So we have a few slides, but then we'll also be doing a bit of building. If you have any questions, please post them through the Q&A. We'll be answering questions later in the Q&A section. But please feel free to post any comments, any questions, and we'll try to answer as much as we can. So thank you very much. What we're going to start is with winning with Port scorecards and try to think of the agenda. Why do scorecards matter? Like, why are we even talking about them, right? How are scorecards looking now and in the future within Port, as well as bringing in some real world success stories. And last but not least, we'll be building some scorecards with Port in real time. So why do scorecards matter? At the end of the day, when we're talking about scorecards, it's all about bringing together principles, best practices, and guardrails in a way that is consumable for leadership, developers, platform engineers. No matter the persona, you're going to be able to understand where you are right now in the process. What kind of process are we talking about? We're talking about, for example, a maturity process where you're maybe standardizing the way that you're working across the company. And you want to assess the maturity, the quality, the compliance of the software components. You want to make sure that whatever you are pushing to production maybe has less than 5 critical vulnerabilities. Maybe it has a README, very important, right? Or, the PRs have been reviewed by 2 people. That kind of compliance, that kind of quality is something that you want to make sure that you have across all your software components. What we see is also is a lot of platform and DevOps teams struggle to promote best practices. This comes from the whole transformation to DevOps, right? Like developers are taking a lot more ownership of their applications, of what they're building. And platform teams are trying to give the best tools, the best infrastructure, the best capabilities for teams and development teams to be able to just accelerate the development. But it's hard to get that best practice across everyone because not every team is the same. Not everyone is working on the same things. So it's very difficult to set up that standard. And a lot of the time, you just lack visibility into which teams or services are meeting your internal standards or SLOs. So scorecards represent the quantitative insight about this quality, the health, the compliance of the resources. They give you full visibility into what you're setting up as, the compliance of whatever you want to say. Let's say 5, you want to have 5 vulnerabilities maximum. You can set that as part of your bar of your scorecard. Or align to best practices on operational maturity. Maybe you have a goal to have, a reviewer in every PR. Maybe that's something that's new. Maybe you have the goal that you're going to be migrating into a different tool and you want to have that visibility. Sorry, I just saw that I have a question that is, I'm not sure if it's in my end, but you're breaking up a lot and I can't hear you. If that's the case, please do let me know. Okay, cool. I think it may be in your end, Jason. Sorry about that. So again, going through the scorecards, the bridge between data and decisions. It helps you as a leader make better decisions. So maybe we need to invest more in training around security, for example. Or, setting helps you set up the golden path, makes them standards, visible, measurable, and team node. Because then every team, every lead in the team, or every developer in the team will be able to know where they stand, what they need to work on, and you can use them in in fun ways. Because, for example, you could use the scorecards and use the scorecard API as part of your CI pipeline to be able to actually enforce some of these metrics as part of your build process. So what do scorecards look like now, and what is the future? Scorecards in port are there for standards for all your entities, are flexible, adaptable. They bring compliance at a glance, and they help you act, not just observe. So how do they look like? This is how they look like in real life, in a demo, and you're feel free to try it out. This is the public demo. So I'm just gonna put it in the chat for everyone. So you can actually go there and navigate, play around with the scorecard overview and understand a bit more about scorecards. So let's say in this services scorecards, what we are visualizing here and what we're trying to get here is an understanding of, okay, how are my different services performing against my different controls? So for example, PR metrics. We have some in bronze, some in basic, some in silver, code quality, docs maturity, security maturity, monitoring maturity, and tier 1 standards. Now, what do any of these actually mean? Well, that's a bit more complex. No, it's not that complex. So for each of these services, anytime that you are in port, you'll be able to navigate into the scorecards. The scorecards for the service will bring you full visibility into what each and every one of these scorecards actually means. So when we're talking about, for example, code quality, the bronze tier are things like it's integrated to Sonar. It has a code coverage of more than 60% or has less than 20 security hotspots. As we go above setting tiers, these controls get harder and harder. So for example, in this case, we're bronze because we actually have more than 50 code smells, right? So we may be having less than 100, but we have more than 50. So then that's it. You're bronze. Maybe as a team who owns a service, you should be looking into these code smells, maybe reducing them and getting into the next tier, the silver tier. And if you want to get gold, reduce them to less than 10 and not have any critical issue. So as you can see, scorecards are very flexible because all of this is defined by you. You may have orange tier. It's not just bronze, gold, silver, like those are the default ones, but you can customize it. And if you want to have orange, yellow, green, if you want to have banana, pineapple, aubergine, you can have whatever tier you want to call it. As long as you have defined and your develop and your teams, your users understand what is the lower tier and what is the higher tier, then we're all good. So when we're looking into some of these, I'm just going to touch upon, for example, this production readiness. So what are we actually checking? So because we have so much information in port, we have all information related to the entity or to the service. We understand that, if PagerDuty is empty, then you don't have a PagerDuty service. Or if the domain is empty, then you don't have a domain that it belongs to. It's all aligned into the different categories and to the values, etc. So you can actually see if you have a supported language as Python, that's it. Values Python, all good. Or if you have the freshness, as long as it's less than a year old, this one is a bit iffy, getting close to it, but as long as it's less than a year old, at least it'll be in the orange tier. So in this case, as you can see, I have 335. So obviously that's more than 90. And in this case, I have one PagerDuty incident, so no way for me to get into a green tier. So again, all of this is how scorecards are visualized and seen from user perspective. You can see them at a service level to get more into the details, but the most common way of using them is through an overview. Have an overview of your scorecards, your services, and maybe even break them down by team. Because you can see the visual storytellers, they have a lot of orange, a bit of red, a bit of orange. But if we go to somewhere else like automation aces, they have more red, less orange. So you can quickly visualize where each team is, and you can see the percentage, etc. But what makes board unique is that all this information that helps you act upon it. And that's why we have the actions. Maybe they can help you set up and deploy the image or log the service and reach the service. Maybe you want to add the service and reach the service with additional metadata or change the ownership. All of these things are actions that develop users are going to be able to do to be able to help get better scorecards, better metrics, and ensure, maybe if I have this great maturity, maybe I need to maybe have a self-service action that helps me set up SonarCube or set up Snake. Perfect. So this is how scorecards look right now at a glance. Now, what is happening in the future? In the future, we're going to be transforming scorecards as blueprints. And by future, I mean right now. So scorecards as blueprints are currently in beta. So if you're interested, please reach out. We are happy to bring more customers into the beta. The idea with scorecards as blueprints is that all the scorecards have been very powerful. And as you can see, you can modify them, create them, very flexible with the way that you can configure the different levels, thresholds, parameters, etc. The thing with scorecards is you can make them even better. And that's by becoming blueprints. When they become blueprints, every scorecard will have three key components, three blueprints. So that we'll have the scorecard blueprint, which will define the tiers. We'll have the rule blueprint, which will define the rules that will be applied to the scorecard. So if you think about it, scorecard is the colors like green, yellow, orange, red. The rule, how many days has it been since the last PR or since the last commit? And the rule result will be the result for each of the scorecards and rules applied to the service. Okay. Now, them being blueprints helps adding additional capabilities. So for example, now with scorecards as blueprints, you can directly use them as part of actions. So you could say, for example, as an action, you can update a scorecard. Right now, that would mean going into the UI, modifying the JSON, or going into the API, modifying the JSON. So you can actually automate this through an action or through an automation. You could set up an automation, for example, that if a team has an in-progress build, and this is an example. So maybe a team has an in-progress build, and you know it's in progress. Maybe it's been triggered by an action. You can actually say, hey, this team is not meeting the sufficient criteria of the scorecard, so I'm actually gonna stop this action from happening. Just think about all the possibilities that you have of adding automations to your scorecards. And of course, it helps to get relations, mirror properties, permissions, dashboard, capabilities. Basically, scorecards become a first-class citizen within Port, where they become a blueprint because Port is basically all blueprints. At the back end is all blueprints. So you can actually just do so much more, and it's so powerful. And then, yeah, you can say, actually, this scorecard is owned by whichever team. Maybe there's like specific KPIs aligned to the scorecard. Maybe you have like, whatever you want to add to the blueprint. As long as it's a scorecard, and you can build whatever you want. And that's why it is so powerful. And I'll be showing scorecards as blueprints a bit later as part of the longer demo. Okay. So this is what we have right now, and this is in beta. So again, if you're interested, please feel free, to reach out, and we'll do that. Prabhat, I see you have your hand raised up. If you don't mind, just raising the question through the QA, and then we'll look into it. Perfect. So then what's coming next? We have Scorecards 2.0. we are gonna be doing a lot of work in scorecards and making it better, more flexible. The first thing that we're gonna be starting with is the creation flow. We're gonna be improving the creation flow to not rely fully on JSON. So currently, if you want to create a scorecard, the actual configuration is purely JSON based. What we're going to do is we're going to bring a UI. So the UI will help you create the scorecards, will help non-technical people to be able to create the scorecards. For example, create the rules, create the basic details. What are the levels, the tiers? What are you going to be assessing in each of these? You'll be able to duplicate them, replicate them, make it just easier. Even adding additional conditions, maybe, just everything that you have in the JSON, it'll be, it'll be all in a UI, which will make it so much easier for anyone that just doesn't want to live in JSON. And I'm gonna answer live Pravat's question. So Pravat asks, as you mentioned, new blueprints, so new scorecards have 3 components. Does that mean that every scorecard requires 3 blueprints? Yes, any new scorecard will create 3 new blueprints that will then have their relevant entities within the blueprints. So it's more like it's entities, like the scorecards are blueprints. So yeah, like every scorecard will be a new blueprint that will then have its own entities. Okay. Again, I'll show you how this looks live, and we can work around it. But yeah, it's very exciting to see what we're doing with Scorecard 2.0. At least, getting started is a UI. There's more features coming down the line, but I did want to get this little sneak peek out of there. So now we have real world success stories. These are success stories. You're not gonna see how they look like because I'll probably not be good. But these are real success stories from companies, how they're using scorecards. First of all, one of the big themes about scorecards is transformation and best practices, right? Setting up the golden path. So what we've seen a lot of companies is use scorecards to track progress, track transitions, track migrations, for example. We have a company that was using scorecards to understand how many of the 80 classic ADO pipelines they have were transformed into YAML-based pipelines. The goal is to track all repositories to verify the type of pipeline. And our company was using it to track migration from GitHub, to track the repositories in both SCMs, and if in both, then migration has been successful. If it's only Bitbucket, then that one still has to be migrated from Bitbucket. Obviously, there's a lot more metadata that's being tracked. Like if it's an old one, maybe it's not really necessary to have it migrated. So there's a lot of more complex information you can add, but this is the highlight. Another one similar to the first one, but a bit different was migrating from Jenkins and GitHub to ADO. So again, a way of tracking repositories, seeing if they have an ADO pipeline, if they have the ADO metadata. Pravat, I'll answer the question regarding the blueprints later when we actually show live the scorecards of blueprints. Last but not least, when you're looking at transformation, is tracking new best practices. So maybe you have set up a security, you have set up some guardrails. This company was making sure that all services must have a LeanIX entity, just to track the enterprise architecture side of things, as well as security guardrails and production readiness. That is something that we have seen a lot, where you want to make sure that whatever you're taking to production, you're gonna be it's secure, has maybe the scanners, it has no vulnerabilities or limited vulnerabilities. You also want to make sure that it has the right kind of controls, tests, etc. So these are all things that you can get into port and then measure and track as a best practice. And then you have scorecards as guardrails. So a lot of these are available in the demo. So I'm going to go through each of them just quickly. And we have, like, for example, ensure compliance to security controls. So security scans are enabled in pipelines, security issues are resolved in a timely manner. What you'll see is that these are all in the demo, and it's because a lot of the time, the work that we put in the demo is trying to show the best practice. This is what we have seen from customers, and we're going to be updating the demo with the latest and bestest. But as you can see, for security maturity, we are looking into code coverage, open critical vulnerabilities, maybe not having security hotspot, or even just the freshness, just making sure that, you know, uh, every time that there's been a commit within the last 7 days, just make sure that whatever you're building has been updated recently. And you want to have things like branch protection or required approvals. So these are examples. Companies have then implemented it with their own use cases. So for example, you may not be using Sonar, you may be using checkmarks, you may be using Veracode, Snake as a security tool. Maybe you're using Wiz and you want to implement that. So you can add and track all that information from the scorecards. Ensuring good code quality, we already looked into that one. DORA metrics. So DORA metrics are DORA metrics are interesting. You can actually track DORA metrics through scorecards. So apart from visualizing what is your weekly deployment frequency, your monthly time to remediate, or lead time for changes or change failure rate, you can actually then say, actually, by team, how are they going through the DORA metrics? So you can see if the DORA metrics, if they have a deployment frequency higher than a month, then probably not the greatest. If you're looking for a lead time of less than a month, again, in this case, the numbers are gone for some reason. But change failure rate less than 20%, or mean time to resolve less than whatever that is in minutes. So you can see how you can use scorecards to track your metrics and then present back to leadership, for example. Maybe we need to invest in improving our deployment frequency. Maybe we are trying to deploy once a day, and we are very much, all our teams are stuck at once a month. Scorecards allow you to get that visibility and then act upon it. Similarly, dev productivity, how often are you releasing new features, or developer index as a team, Jira metrics. Again, there's a lot of data import that you can use to create and build scorecards. Sky's the limit, or the data that is imported is the limit. That's up to you to decide. But there's a lot that you can do with the scorecards to help you understand really how to best position yourself, your company, your team, and track and guide through these best practices and guardrails. Okay. So now we're going to go a bit into the building scorecards with Board, and we're going to be using not only scorecards as JSON, but we're going to be using MCP. So for those of you that don't know, and I should have actually opened this. So we have a new MCP server at Port that allows you to interact with scorecards, blueprints, entities, actions. It enables you to interact also with our AI assistant. And it's available right now out there. I would recommend it for every builder. It's very much secure, and anything that is interacting with the MCP server, you need to go through the port account. So every user, even if your users, end users, will only be able to do and act upon the information and capabilities that they have. So it's not like user A is going to be able to access information that only user B can see. That's not the case. Every user can only see what they see in port themselves and interact with that information. And the big one here is interacting for us right now is interacting with scorecards. So the two use cases that we're going to build are PR metrics and ensure compliance to security controls. Okay. So I'm going to go into my environment. And my environment, we're going to be looking into the scorecards that we have. So as you can see, I have my service. And this service has associated a scorecard and rule result. So when we're talking about blueprints, this is how they match. So the service, in this case, we only have one scorecard, that is production readiness. So we have the blueprint schema, the rule, and the scorecard itself. This is information that you can do in the scorecards. You are not going to be adding, like, every scorecard. What it's going to do is it's going to create an entity with a rule, an entity with a rule result. So in this case, I don't know why I added this this relationship, but Prabhat, to your question, it won't create a dashboard for every rule or every scorecard. There is going to be one catalog. That one catalog is going to have your scorecards, your rules, and your results. The blueprints are 3 blueprints, but the entities are many entities. Okay. So in this case, I have production readiness. Production readiness, as you can see, this is the scorecard with the levels that I have, color that are like red, yellow, orange, green. Percentage of the rules have been passed, 19%, not great. And the rules tested, 112, and the rules passed, 22. So these are the rules. The amount of that you see there is the amount that is being affected to the entities, because of the entities I have in the service. Then, each individual rule has the query. What is it talking about? In this case, it has a README. And what I'm looking here is, what is the query? It's operator not empty, and the property is README. Nice and easy. It's the same information that you had before. But again, the important thing here is, what is it that you are getting out of it? With the blueprints, you can then, I'm going to say most of the time, interact with the rule result. Because if you say that this airport, like this airplane one, has a team result, has not passed, maybe you want to say, hey, actually, I want to create an automation that no team and no service, or no airplane in this case, without a team can go into production, right? Like, that's an automation that you can prevent that action to happen. Or you can do the relation, you can set up new properties. So this is the power of blueprints. So how do we build new scorecards? So a scorecard, as you can see, you can add, no, you cannot add rule results. You can add rules, you can add scorecards. At the end of the day, they are entities. So how you add them depends on how you want to do it. If you start with a scorecard set blueprints, you will need to do, and you will have to, let's say, go to service. I'm just going to say, this is we said the PR metrics, right? This is security. Security issues, security scorecard. We have the levels, by default levels. So currently it is very much the default ones. But I'm going to say star, still going to keep it gold. I'm going to keep it metal, wood, and basic, just as an example. And I'm going to register the new scorecard. Now, the scorecard has no associated results. So this is the way of interacting through scorecards like blueprints. So you can then start working with the related entities. You can work with the rules, etc. Now, how you would usually do it is you would go into the service and go into the scorecard, and I'm going to create another security scorecard. Now, this is the typical view. As I said, scorecards 2.0, you will be creating them hopefully in the UI or through Terraform. Yes, Pravat, you can create these through Terraform. Basically, anything that you have in port, you can see and create and automate through Terraform, APIs, etc. And what I'll show you with the creation of scorecards through the MCP server, it's using the API to create the scorecard. Okay. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go and type everything because we will be here a couple of years. So I'm just gonna go and get my scorecard JSON. So what we're gonna be creating is the security maturity. We're using the default levels, basic, bronze, silver, gold, BNA. We're gonna be adding a few levels. And then how do you define them? So you've defined the levels and then you define the rules. So the rule in this case we're defining is the code coverage above 90. So what does that mean? That for the property coverage, which I actually don't have in this one because I'm gonna say vulnerability. Let me just see what I can put. Total container vulnerabilities. Let's just total container vulnerabilities. This one is accepted. I removed my coverage before, so I guess we'll have to change that. Anyway, so then we have the coverage. You'll need to add the description. The description will help the end users to understand why this is important, where it is in the levels. So as you remember, when you're looking to scorecards, you have the different levels. You have like admin, you have like bronze, silver. So for each level, you'll have to define the rules. You may notice that there's some rules that are not in the gold tier because for any tier to go above, you need to meet the below tier. So it could be the case that you just want to not have security hotspots, go coverage. Yeah. So integrated with Sonar is something that is basic and is something that you would see in the bronze tier. So you don't need to replicate this one at different levels, but code coverage, you start with 60%, you go to 70%, and then ultimately to 80%. So you need to add this information to every single one of the rules, right? So you want to define what this rule, at which level does it apply, and which conditions. Now the conditions can vary. This can be information in the service itself, in the blueprint itself. It can be information that is in another blueprint. Now with scorecards and blueprints, you can relate another blueprint and get that information into the scorecard itself. Because usually you generally match a scorecard to a blueprint. But again, you can, with this new way, you can probably relate a bit more information. So in this case, I have the open critical vulnerabilities. I'm just gonna remove some of these that are not gonna work for me because I have a different schema. So I'm just gonna quickly remove these. But you understand how this works. You basically create a rule. The rule has to apply to a level, and then you define what is the property and what is the expected value. So if I say that, less than 0 or like 0 open critical vulnerabilities, maybe I say is less than 1, less or equal than 1. You can configure it, and most of them will be and. In some specific cases, you may want to have Well, do you have Python or Java? So then the combinator will be changing to or. Again, this is very much regular port capabilities and nothing that you have not seen before. So now once everything I have done is correct, I can quickly save. And what I'll see is that I have security maturity. Now, if I go back into my rules, this should refresh. And now we have new rules for the security scorecard. And this will now be measured and we'll have new rule results for the different services. So this is how we have created the scorecards. Nice and easy. It does require patience because it's a lot of JSON. So what I'm going to show you, and first of all, I'm actually going to turn on the light. What I'm going to show you is how we can accelerate this massively through the use of MCP. So in my case, I'm using Cursor, but an MCP server can be used with basically any modern AI tool right now. So you can use them with Copilot, you can use them with Claude, you can use them with VS Code and some of the other tools. So what we're going to do is, first of all, understand where are we, like what are we doing with MCP? I am going to say that based on my service blueprint, create a set of scorecards for PR metrics and security. I'm using Gemini. You can use Claude. I found that the best models for me have been either Gemini or Claude. So what is it going to do? It's going to call the MCP tool. So in this case, it's going to examine my blueprint service. And you can see all the information that it has from the blueprint. And then when it's reviewing that information, it will define, okay, what are the kind of metrics that I can implement related to PR metrics and security. So obviously I could do this prompt a bit more complex and maybe ask the agent to help me review what it's going to do. But as you can see here, it's going to be creating the PR metrics. It's set up gold, bronze, silver, lead time less than 24 hours, lead time for change, less than 72 hours, so different levels, code owner review. But then, for example, I can actually say, can we change the top tier? Can we change the top tier to star instead of gold? Because I like it. And it will change the request, it will change the blueprint, as it will change the scorecard. And as you can see, now it's top one is star. So you can interact with this as you're interactive with an agent. Now I run the tool and it creates a scorecard. Oh, the thing was rejected, there were highlights. Oh, shorted identifier. I have a very long identifier. Sorry about that. There you go. New one, create the scorecard. Happy times. Yes, so now it's planning the next move. So now it's going to be doing the security scorecard. While this is happening, let me just check the questions. So please share the document at the end regarding how do I start with this beta feature in my instance. Absolutely, Prabhat, as part of the webinar, we'll be sharing how you can sign up to Scorecards as blueprints. With port, scorecards are already there. The MCP is already there. It's available for everyone. You can just start working and playing with it. So we'll be sharing both how you sign up to Scorecards as blueprints and MCP link as part of the webinar at the end. From Etienne, we get a question: any plan to support scorecards with rules based on multiple blueprint properties? The answer is yes. We are planning to do that. When? I don't know. But if you are interested, we can get some clarification about it. But yes, the idea is to support multiple blueprint properties. Perfect. In the meantime, while I was answering those questions, I have two new scorecards. Nice and easy. So now I should be able to refresh, go here, and I have my two new scorecards. This one created 5 minutes ago, and the PR metrics one created a minute ago. The security one created a minute ago. So now these are all related to services. So if I go to my services, when I navigate my services, well, I'll see in my demo service, for example, it's all my scorecards. So I have my security scorecard. So I just have two tiers in this case, silver and star. Are gonna get snake code is enabled. I don't have it enabled, or snake open source is not enabled. So I'm gonna stay in silver because I have fewer than 5 high vulnerabilities. PR metrics wise, my freshness is not that good. It's 507 days. And my lead time is currently 0, which is also a null value, not great. But I do have at least one approval required for my PRs. So I have been able to create these scorecards in a couple of minutes, much faster than doing it manually. So I would definitely recommend, if you have an idea of a scorecard or you want to get ideas from the scorecards, do use MCP server, ask the agent, use the different ones, try out which one works better for you. As I would say, using Cursor mainly, Claude 4 and Gemini 2.5 are the best ones that I've had. But again, just try it out. Maybe O3, maybe you have O3 Pro now that has released yesterday. Try whatever works. But I would definitely recommend using the MCP server for this kind of activity because it just reduces the manual effort. Or if not, using the API, using Terraform, using API, just automate it in a different way. But at the end, what you get is a nice scorecard view with your different scorecards. And ultimately, then you can add them to sorry. You can add them to your dashboards. You can get your team scorecards. You can get the scorecard overview, and you can set up initiatives. And initiatives is not something we've talked about. So I was focusing mainly in scorecards, and it's something that I'm going to be adding here. And initiatives is something that you can create in your portal as an experience. So what does this mean? If I go into my portal, and I cannot use that one, sorry, my portal. So you can set up a new scorecard and a new scorecard dashboard, or you can set up an initiative. So initiatives use different scorecards to track specific progress of the different rules. What does this mean? If I'm going to here, so in here for the demo environment, we've set up an initiative, and I'm just going to share this link into the chat so you can look into it, where you're looking to track the progress with an initiative description of how many repositories have a Sonar project. Nice and easy. Similar view that we had before regarding the different scorecards. But now this is acting upon a very specific need, a specific initiative. So with initiatives, you will be able to then map and say, hey, does this team have Sonar projects for all the services? Which ones do have PRs without Sonar analysis? So you can track everything related to your Sonar implementation, or the ones that belong at domain. You can track different things with these initiatives. Ultimately, the goal with initiatives is to drive transformation. We've talked about using scorecards for transformation. Initiatives are the way to present them back to users in a way that is consumable and efficient. And as we've been building new initiative, our initiative is going to be security initiative. and we're going to be focusing on enabling Snake open source, Snake code, and fewer than 5 vulnerabilities. Because I have all the rules, all the blueprints, I can have a quick initiative page, which will show all the services, my important scorecards that I'm looking into getting from the service, fewer than 5 vulnerabilities, Snake open source enabled, Snake code enabled, percentage of passed, and then as an admin, I can edit, add additional information to the description, add the team, modify that, and get a tracking of everything that I see. So definitely something worth checking out. Once you create your scorecards, remember, create your scorecard with MCP, maybe make it easier for you to get started with scorecards. Then create an initiative for your transformation, drive that transformation, drive getting the results that you want to get. Get this to your leadership, get this to the team leads, make them understand where they are and where they should be getting to. And that's it. 10 minutes for Q&A. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending to the workshop. Now it's open for more Q&A. I know I've been answering things live. It's my preference. But if you have any questions around scorecards, now is the time. And if we don't see any questions for 2 minutes, then we're just closing it down. Perfect. Looks like it's all clear for everyone. I hope everyone has enjoyed the session. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to your relevant port team or reach out even to me. We will be sending out the information that I shared. So we'll be sharing out the demo environment where you can try out scorecards, initiatives. We'll be sharing information on how to sign up to the scorecards as blueprints, as well as the link to the MCP server. So you can start generating and working with scorecards at a faster speed and, maybe get some inspiration from the AI to get them up and running as soon as possible. Thanks, everyone, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.